I ran across this question asking, can you create reality through your mind? This is a great question because it's one of those things that a lot of people ask. And I know things like The Secret have come out and they talk about law of attraction. I've even talked about law of attraction in a couple of my different videos. And I do believe that law of attraction works in a sense. I believe that there are many times in my life, just to give an example, where I have essentially thought about different things I wanted in my life, and I've really focused on those particular things. Doing visualization is kind of that way. Ultimately, you are attracting like energy. So those things, those thoughts and ideas that you keep repeating in your mind, if you can think of those particular things, it's supposed to attract them into your life. And I've seen this from a number of different things in my life. And, having a house, having, that ideal place, right? I visualized the house, the car, all these different things in my life when I was younger, and I was able to achieve those things. Now, is that something that is just a coincidence? I think it is to an extent, right? I think there's a lot of different things in life that are hard to explain. That's why I do like to dive into a lot of different scientific things. But the ultimate thing to understand here is there's still things out there that you can't explain. There's things out there that are, even science can disprove itself, further down the road. And this is what is interesting about it. But being said, I myself I think you can bend reality to a point. I think ultimately doing meditation, doing visualization helps you, scientifically hone in on patterns that you don't typically see. And so if you're coming from, like, say, a bad environment or something, you can change your thought process, recondition your mind to see the brighter things in life as opposed to everything that is so negative. It is possible, and I've done it. But the thing is you have to give it time to be able to do that. And then to say that the visualization helps warp your reality, I think it helps you hone in on what is important in your life, right? Because if you are doing any kind of visualization in your life, you realize that you are looking at that destination. You are trying to relive that moment where you have achieved it. And with that being said, you have a lot of people out there that do vision boards and everything like that. I've tried to do vision boards. It hasn't really worked for me. I am a visual person, so it's a lot easier for me to visualize where I would be at, how I feel, what I'm thinking, who's with me, and trying to live in that experience. And I find that by doing this, it has worked. And it's quite hard to explain, right? Because everything that you think and feel and that, right, it comes to fruition. It's not something that happens overnight. I haven't actually done this and have it work right then and there, but it's a technique that is used through even athletes. Athletes are always told to visualize, right? Like a professional baseball player is told to visualize their swing, or a pitcher is told to visualize their release and their setup, right? And that being said, that is more here in the now, because it helps your mind focus on what needs to be done. And when you are talking about changing your life and rebuilding your life through your mind, what you're trying to do is hone in and allow yourself to focus on the now. And that's why it helps. That's why the visualization and the law of attraction, these things really help, because they help you visualize and actually take action in the now about what am I supposed to be doing, right? And so when you hear about these books, right, you can read tons of books. And it's like a good example I give all the time, right? Like you read about riding a bike. And yes, you may have the basic framework of how to ride a bike, but you will never actually be able to ride a bike until you get on the bike and start riding it. And it's the same with the visualization. It's the same with finding that pattern, right? Your brain can hone in on the pattern, focus on the destination, and know what steps to take But ultimately, it will be up to you to start taking action. But this helps, right? You can morph your reality into what you want it to be by doing this stuff and keep reiterating in your brain, right? And that's ultimately what matters, because your brain is going to repeat a lot of the same stuff so that you feed it. And if you're not filtering what comes essentially into your mind, right? If you're not filtering the news, if you're not filtering social media, friends, family, workplace environment, right? If you're not filtering all these different things, you end up realizing that your thoughts and ideas will be morphed by those things because you are not filtering it. But if you actually take the effort to eliminate a good chunk of that stuff and allow yourself to deeply think about what it is you want, do visualization, do meditation, right? Do breathing techniques, and you realize that by doing this, it helps you keep that focus. And then when you're out day by day and you see something that aligns essentially with your goal or your destination that you've been thinking about, you take action on it, right? You may see this as a sign or whatever the case is, but ultimately your brain is tied into that frequency, right? That frequency in which you want to achieve that goal, because that has been at the forefront of your memory, right? And that's what matters, is if it's replayed in your brain, you ultimately will continue to look for those things, look for those patterns, and start executing continuously on these things. And again, you can change your life by doing this. I've done it many times. And again, there are many times I have neglected and fallen into that loop to where I don't think about these things. And I let other things that I don't filter in my life affect my life. And you can tell that, and you realize, you get to this point that you kind of lose sense of who you are, because who you thought you were before and who you are today are two different people. That's because you allowed these outside elements to essentially change the way you think, and not allow yourself to think for yourself. And this is why thinking for yourself is extremely critical, and allowing yourself to know what you have to do on a daily basis. And again, if you are continuously putting in an effort on a daily basis, you know what exactly you need to do. And so you take the action to change things, right? Because things in life will never change. You can't hope, you can't wish, you can't dream and then not take the action, right? You can, again, go back to reading about a bike, but without actually getting on the bike, without actually trying to pedal, without actually trying to find your balance, you're not going to be able to actually ride a bike. You're not going to be able to actually change your life. Yes, it does help you focus on what needs to be done in your life. I do highly agree with that. And allow you to find that destination, right? Because a lot of times we don't have a destination. We just go with the flow. And when you just go with the flow, a lot of times you don't know where you're going. And this is funny because of the fact, you can follow intuition and not really know. And something I have been trying to grow, even myself, is honing in on the intuition. But intuition, or following your heart, is one of those things that only gives you the next step. And so you have this conflict with your literal side of your brain telling you why it's not going to work, because it likes to do that. It likes to protect you, right? That's ultimately what it's there for. But just looking for that next step and being okay with uncertainty, right, is another piece that can play into this, that allows you to enjoy the journey, right, and start going more into this law of attraction. But realizing that what you're ultimately doing is feeding into this thought, this idea, this visualization that you are feeding yourself, and then taking the actions that align with that, and then you start seeing change in your life, right? Because that's ultimately what it is we are essentially what we are ingesting into our minds. And if we ingest a bunch of garbage into our minds, right, you're going to get garbage out. You're going to project in your world what you're essentially ingesting. And so it's important to make sure that you are filtering, make sure that you are aligning your thoughts and ideas to what it is you want, and make sure that you know what it is you want. And if you don't know what it is that you want, you need to go out and experience things. You need to go out and find new perspective, read up on things, right? And be curious about stuff, right? And this is what I talk about, things like a think tank that I typically do when I do my meditation. I sit and I think what being unplugged. And I sit and allow myself to think and find new creative ideas when I go into my think tank, and then go and explore them and see what they do and see where they lead. And they lead to a lot of other different things, right? They lead to a deeper rabbit hole and new opportunities and stuff that you didn't see before, which is quite amazing. You can see how this can change your world and allow you to see that things aren't so scarce, that there are a lot of things out there that you are missing. And that's what matters. And that's what you start executing on. And that's what you start finding out where your passions are. Then you have that destination, right? Again, because if you don't have that destination, you'll just be lost adrift. You'll just be going through life and hoping and wishing, and things just don't happen when you hope and wish. So you can morph your reality with your mind by what you feed it, and make sure it's good things, your own thoughts, your own ideas. Again, you have to get perspective. You have to have new experiences to be able to find this, but it is possible. And then once you do this, you start liking this, you start doing this more and more. You find new destinations, you find new thoughts and ideas and goals that you want in life, and then you align everything with that. Then you start doing the visualization. Then you start living in that moment as if you have already experienced it. And the people that you're with when you're doing that. And the feelings that you have in that moment. So this allows you to live that moment in the now. Because the now is where everything changes. You have to realize that you also have chemicals in your body that are causing you to think about other things, about future projections, about how things are going to be in that time. But you can trick your brain also by visualizing and living in that moment now, because your brain doesn't know the difference, and enjoying the moment. And so you can morph your reality into what you want it to be by recreating that in your mind, and then replaying it day after day and conditioning your mind to see that. Because once your mind can see it, right, you don't actually have to be living in it. Your mind starts believing it, and then you start believing in it. And that's what matters. So do I believe that your mind can morph reality? It can. So give it a try.